you're driving and not me?
Wrong button. So, welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. And yeah, as you can see, Trina Phoenix is back. And we will talk a little bit about the intense energies that we are all experiencing. And welcome, Trina. And can you imagine, in a couple of days, it's already March.
How did that even happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Time is on super drive. Everything, everything feels like it's changing. And I mean, it feels powerful. We
Mhm.
have this seven planet alignment. Earthquakes are possible with this. I mean, we've got a lot of energy that it's not just spiritual, physical, it's also earth, global, electromagnetic, and it's also photonic because the sun is shooting stuff at us. And we're in the beginning of that plasma wave, that photon belt that was coming into Earth. Wow, what a ride!
Yeah, it's I sometimes feel as if I'm, hey, kitty, don't do that. I sometimes feel as if I'm, in a machine that presses me from both sides. You know what I mean?
Yes.
As in, like when you getting the oil out of olives, yeah, and you
Yeah.
squeeze it really, really hard. Yeah, that is how I sometimes feel.
Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense because when you were saying that, I was seeing that on like a quantum level. And I really do. I think we're going through different timelines and we're doing a lot of shifting right now. And I think some timelines are actually collapsing in on each other. So I think you're feeling that literally on a quantum subatomic level. And I've been feeling the same. That's why I could see what you were saying. I was like, I feel like that too. It almost feels like if you were going through a black hole and before you get through it, it like condenses you in so hard. It's almost like you're a balloon being taken to the bottom of the ocean. And then all of a sudden the energy just pops out of you. It's very interesting with what I'm feeling and sensing too. And it's similar to what you're expressing with the pressure. And yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah. Um, and as you said, it can trigger earthquakes. Have you monitored the situation in Greece?
I've been looking at that. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Santorini. Oh my.
I mean, it's probably already old numbers, but yesterday I saw more than 9,000 earthquakes, and it's getting closer and closer to that underwater volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if it's going to go, it's probably going to be in the next couple weeks because of the seven planet alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people kind of be ready for that potential because this might be real. I mean, real serious. It looks like it is.
Do
Yeah.
you think there is a possibility that new land will come up?
I think that's part of this transition. I've been seeing that. And, when I ask, what are things going to look like? And I have seen that multiple times. You've got a lot of the maps that show, the potentials for when the earth changes come, what things are going to look like. Yeah, a lot of that could be real because of, man, so many different cultures and different timelines and different people from all different spectrums have witnessed so much of the same vision when you look at Earth changes from the big transitional time on Earth, which it appears we are definitely in that great transition upon Earth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I have to say, also when I look what is happening, yeah, on a political level, yeah,
Mm.
internationally, and then we have volcanoes, we have earthquakes. And yeah, okay, we still have wars going on and new ones probably developing or not. This time it might hit Africa. There is a chance that, yeah, there will be a greater African war, which I do not hope.
Hmm.
And Israel announced they are bracing for a tsunami. They are already, if that in front of Santorini, yeah, if that yeah happens, that they already are taking precautions how to deal
Yeah.
with it. And this is going to sound maybe a little bit weird, but I don't mean it that way. Because I know how deadly it is, how much death and destruction such a tsunami brings with it. I remember very clearly when it happened, early 2000s in Indonesia, Sri Lanka,
Oh,
Thailand. It even hit the coast of Kenya. So,
that was horrible. Yes.
yeah, so it is not that I'm waiting for it, can't wait to see it. But there was one thought that crossed my mind. Sometimes when catastrophes like that happen, after it's over, the tsunami is gone, and everybody is, those who have survived are looking at each other. Many times you have no other choice than to work together. And
Mm.
all the things that you hated about each other fall away. And
Yes.
so I thought, is it what we couldn't figure out for decades and decades and decades, does it take nature?
That's a very interesting question. And I think there's so much to that question. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's because we've had such an absence of that presence. We've not been allowed to understand the power of nature and the divine feminine part of God because the father has a mother. There's always two. So, we've been so cut off from that energy. Well, this might be her time to speak, and she's going to show you who truly does rule this construct because it's her body. So
Mm,
yeah, you might be right, spot on with that.
mm,
It is time for us to acknowledge who we are, what we are, and you can't know who you are unless you understand that you are dual. And you are masculine and feminine. You are positive. You are negative. You are that. So I think this is the biggest question for humanity at this time is do you wish to just continue to let people tell you who you are and what you are? Or are you going to be brave enough to really dive into what it is that it means to even be human? And what is that? What is your soul? What does that mean? What is the potential that you have as what I believe is the most beautifully intelligent design on this construct of artificial intelligence, your human body? I don't think there's anything that can compare to it. Not, no, that's just my own belief. And I know that so much of what we are has not been allowed to be expressed down to the point that we only use 10% of our brain.
mm,
I mean, it's like when you think about what would we be if we even used 30%, and how did that get locked and how do you unlock it? You know what I mean? Because people who do experience miraculous things and they can help people to experience those things also by accessing the wisdom and the frequency of it. So this is what I'm interested in learning. And a lot of that is learning and remembering the parts of us that's the human and the spirit. And how do we integrate that? Because if that integration happens, you go into a more balanced system. because we are duality. There's and those forces are so powerful within us. So, but we have had no channels basically until recently, with the channelings of the Divine Mother. All of these things are starting to reawaken. The indigenous tribes, the Native American teachings, all of those are very connected to the Divine Feminine. They really honor the grandmother, they're a matriarchal system. So you're starting to see it come back for the first time in thousands of years, at least hundreds, since the Roman Church and all that. So it's been a long time. And I think that's part of this transition. And part of it is going to be remembering the part of us that is of earth. And if we can't do that, she's going to make it really rough on us. And I think that making it kind of rough, anyways, is to balance out the speed of which things are moving in an artificial level. It'll slow things down, so hopefully we can get a more balanced system with that, with the more, the ones who choose to remain more in the organic paths, and then the ones that choose to go forward in the AI paths. Those will both be able to beautifully do exactly what they're supposed to do in a more balanced fashion. Because this is going to be the ultimate, everybody talks about the bifurcation, the
Mm.
division. This is, I think, what it is about. It's about, are you going to hold on to your divinity in your code, or are you going to try to modify it and make something new, you letting man dictate what you become? So, that's a choice. And many people are going to want to do that because it's going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot of things people are going to really love about that. But, this is about what works for you, and how can you express this lifetime in the most authentic way for yourself. So, but I think that there's going to be a lot of challenges with that,
Mm.
all
Yeah.
of it.
I don't know, did you pay any attention to the speech that J.D. Vance gave here in Munich?
I saw part of it and holy macaroni. Wow.
I I I have to say I loved it.
I
Great.
did too. I
And
couldn't believe he said it. I was shocked. I was like, well, wow, he's laying it down right now. He really is. And thank you for being honest, but we haven't seen a lot of that for a while. So
yeah,
sometimes it's a little shocking. I mean, he's telling it. So yay. And we're seeing a lot more of that now. But boy, this is like a breath of fresh air because wow, we haven't had any in a while. And the ones that did speak truth or say kind of what was going on, they all got punished and, bad things happened. So thank God we're starting to see some shifting in the ability to actually have conversations about these very serious issues.
yeah. Yeah, he basically told everybody there, why should we even start talking about defense budgets if you are not clear on what you are standing for and is it that you want to defend? Because what I'm seeing is not the greatest threat is coming from within here in the EU.
Yep.
And the way you harass and punish your own citizens because they have a different point of view, and your made up hate speech laws. And then he gave some examples. I, the people here in Europe loved it. The politicians
Oh,
and the
good.
press went bat crap.
I bet they did. But I'm glad that the people, they really did like it.
Yeah,
That's good to know. That's very good to know.
yeah. And
Wow.
I have one short example
Mhm.
because it fits also into this, you know, how intense these energies are. It's only 47 seconds because the head of of the SIKO, the security conference there in Munich, he actually started crying on stage. Have a look. Yeah, you just wait. Okay, here we go.
after the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
So we had the day before here in Germany another terror attack where somebody drove, a migrant drove with a car in a crowd of people, into a crowd of people. We had it in December as well. We had another attack on toddlers that were doing a short trip to the park. And so a 2-year-old child was stabbed to death, and the guy who tried to prevent the attack, a 41-year-old man, he was stabbed to death by this guy as well. So, and as you know, he did not, Vance did not only address, yeah, freedom of speech, he also addressed the mass migration situation in Europe. So,
Yeah.
and as I said, the people loved it. But can you see that person, the head of SIKO, cannot stand that somebody is telling him the truth. He starts crying on stage.
Um, you know, uh, just my opinion, but means nothing to nobody other than an opinion. But those tears came from the recognition of defeat.
Yeah.
You guys are going in the right direction, and the energy wins. Always the energy wins. So so bond together with your spirit and your soul, and see the beautiful things you want to see. Refuse to look at what they show you, and create, 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 create. You are a child of creation. Create. Do it. Imagine everything you want to see. You have no idea the power of your image into this world right now. And we got to really work on it, because we're going to see a lot of stuff that's kind of maybe spooky, scary, sad. So we got to hold the vision as much as you can, and your vision. What would this world look like in harmony to you? Because all of our pieces is going to make the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I could have understood, but these weren't tears for the victims. These weren't tears for the murdered people. They couldn't care less.
No, it's about him.
Yeah, yeah, because his feelings got hurt.
Yeah.
That somebody expressed a different point of view, but it goes
Yeah.
to show that even people like him are swept away sometimes. Yeah, in that particular moment, he couldn't handle the energy.
No, I know it's shocking when somebody pops your reality bubble, when you think that you know everything that is to know about everything that there is to be known, and everybody around you supports exactly what you think and feel and believe, and you're in a very, very powerful position. If somebody else in a powerful position comes up to you and has a completely different point of view, it kind of snaps your reality. And that was kind of a reaction of, oh my gosh, I don't believe what just happened. I mean, really, shock. So it appears to me, it was like, how did this even happen? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think they still have the idea they are dealing with the Biden-Harris administration.
You know, That is probably true because, like I said, when your reality is being enforced so strong to that level with that kind of power behind it,
Mm-hmm.
that might take a little while for that reality to shift because that is going to be like a full-blown mental redo because it's just not even was plausible in the consciousness of most of these leaders. It's not plausible. There's no way it could happen. That's literally where they're at. They're like, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It'll be fine. We'll get back where we need to be. There's a lot of denial going on with the changes that are really taking place on this planet, and I think they're a lot bigger than most realize.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not just political. It's going to be with the earth. It's going to be with just. It is going to be a lot, a lot. So, yeah. The only way we're going to make it through a lot of these changes is if we can learn to get past our differences and work together as an entire whole planet, not as a whole, one or whatever, the whole top end global thing. It's just literally about people needing to be supportive for other people. And we have to find a way to make everybody be able to have their basic needs met. But I don't think it's going to come from anything that's already been there and been existing for a long time because they've been doing this for a long time. And for a long time, a lot of the planet is dying of starvation every day. And it's been happening for hundreds of years. So we've got problems at such a big level. But I think these transitions are the time where you can restructure everything and balance things. And I do think this is a time where we're coming into that kind of balance and humanitarianism and humanitarian work are huge parts of the Aquarian age. So if we really put a lot of focus into that, I think it's going to help a lot.
Mm.
But that means helping each other locally. It's like it's got to be done different than it was. It's got to all be restructured. And I see it's got to start small and it's going to grow and get expand. But it's going to start in small local communities and local areas with local people.
Mm. I
Yeah.
have, I have to say, I experienced these shifts within myself. There are days when I'm just amazed at, the pace that is going on and how fast it all goes and everything that is going on. And then I I have days where I am utterly annoyed.
Right.
So, and as I said before we started recording, sometimes I have to find a way to soothe my nervous system.
And I was telling you how I so appreciate what you're saying, and I feel the same way, and I have a really hard time. One of the messages I keep getting lately when I ask is, what can I do to help the world? How can I help the world? And they were like, sound, make sound. Sounding is going to be so important in these times. It's like back in the olden days when things were happier and more harmonious. We had all these beautiful bells and they used to ring through the planet all the time. They've removed all those bells, all the sound, the birds, they sound the starting of our day. So it's so weird. I just bought this little hand pan and I started just playing with this and just sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's little things that we can do to reshape our vibrational, bubbles on the planet. And it's just we've got to really start to do some work with using our imagination, sounding, music, dance, positive affirmations, words. We really got to be in wizard mode and create because we'll lessen the effects of the changes we're going to experience if we can help create the positive, because it cancels out a lot of the negativity if you're focusing positive energy into the matrix. So this is kind of what we're probably going to need to be doing for the next few years is really focusing on protecting yourself from what you see, because other than just taking in information, okay, these things are happening and being aware of what's happening in your world, but also saying, okay, this is what they're showing me, but anything that I have the potentials to affect or change, I'm going to imagine my vision and see what I would like to see and really put some energy and some emotion. Emotion is the key because that emotion is what activates the wheels of energy that go out into the matrix and
Energy
bring
in
back.
motion.
Yes. And it brings it back like a mirror. It's the way it works. And then you anchor that into the matrix through your own being. Everything is bouncing off of light. So we gotta be, try to direct some light. And that's through your mind and your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do beautiful things.
And what does Trina do for herself, for calming the nerves?
I just started playing a drum because I'm like, I need something. I need something more. I need something new. So I've always done meditation. I've always done, it's basically I just lay down and quiet my mind. And if I have questions, I ask the questions. And sometimes I fall asleep and nothing. And sometimes I get inspiration and ideas and pictures. And I get to see what I need to see. And it's like the aha moments happen. So what I do when the world starts going too fast is I always stop. I breathe. I acknowledge that I'm spinning too quickly and I have to anchor myself and ground my energy. And if I can, like if I'm not working or something like that, but even if I'm working, I will, go when I get to go on a break, I will stop and I will breathe and I will anchor my energy and ground and I will consciously slow my anxiety and my energy field down because I'm triple fire, Judith. Oh my. It's super hard to deal with the fire. Yeah.
Yeah, I have double fire, Sun in Sagittarius and
Oh boy.
ascendant in Aries.
I'm Aries, Leo, Leo.
Okay, okay.
Mm,
Where do you
yeah,
have
ouch.
where do you have your moon?
Leo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is a good thing with me. I have it in um ah my goodness, where is the word? The scales.
Libra.
Libra. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So
See,
that's
I do really good picture talk. I work really good with pictures. You see the scales. I was like, oh, Libra. Yeah, okay, gotcha. See, that's one of the ways that my brain works, and we all do it different. So really start to pay attention to how you pick up on those subtle pieces of information coming from the field into your consciousness. Because the more you can identify how you work, you can really start to strengthen that, and you'll start to be receiving a lot more intuition, a lot more of those intuitive nudges, and a lot more where you actually feel, oh my, So I think this is important now for this time too, for changes and transition, because it'll help keep you and your family safe. So tune in and start working with some vibration, and vibration is always about thought. So, and sound.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is I know exactly how it is. If you have a lot of fire, then
Oh, and you know what else I did, Judith? I bought a grounding mat.
mm,
I literally, no matter what, I can always ground because if it's 120 outside, I can't do that. Can't go put my foot on the earth, it'll burn it. So yeah, I bought a grounding mat. So that was another tool I added to my arsenal of how to keep my balance field, how to do it for me. And that's working with the electrical part of my body. And that is really something that's important for fire babies. So
mm.
yeah, I love the grounding mat. It's just been amazing.
Is it how does it work? Do you need electricity for it?
Well, you plug it into the wall, but the bottom one, which is the ground, that's the only one that's active. The other two are plastic, just as a holding place to plug it into the wall. So yeah, it's a grounding mat, and it just uses the ground, and it literally has the grounding frequency going through the wire into the pad, and you just put your feet on the pad, or you can lay down on a full pad, and it relaxes the blood, Judith. You know, a lot of people, when they get their blood drawn under a microscope, you can see the blood cells are all sticking together, like they're magnetized together. And it's because we have too much charge. And that's because we don't walk around barefoot anymore. We need shoes. And, you know, so we're all holding so much charge a lot of the time, but you can see this in the blood. So, and that's keeping the blood cells from like floating freely and bouncing off each other and, you know, doing their thing. So when you lay on this grounding mat for 20 minutes, they test the blood opens up and it starts bouncing around again. So these are really beautiful tools. And the same thing happens if you put your feet on the earth. You know, you don't need a grounding mat if you have the ability to ground, you know, in your outdoor space. So yeah, it's just we forget about all these important things because you know, society changes and we wear different shoes and all these things change in our world and we forget. And part of this right now too is remembering. And part of remembering who you are is remembering we are very connected to Earth and we come from her body and we've got to find a way to keep ourselves as balanced as we can by utilizing what we were intended to be doing, which was staying grounded to the earth that we live upon. And it really has effect on your physical well-being. And all of it has been just beautiful, better sleep. All these wonderful things were happening for me. And this is not medical advice. This is personal experience. And I know nothing about nothing. So just saying.
Yeah. So, yeah. And,
Yeah.
uh, you know, sometimes, of course, it's easier to flee into a bottle of wine. But, you know, for long-term use, that is not a good idea. So we need to find ways to come.
Yeah.
If it might not affect everybody the same way.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
maybe some people don't experience anything and they find it perfectly normal what's going on. But for those, I think, who
That
are
might
very,
be that could be an NPC, you know.
Mm.
That could be that because I have a feeling that we might have a few of those. A lot. Don't
You
know.
you mentioned the Catholic Church, and
Hmm.
I recently have listened to some contemporary seers that we have here in Germany and in Austria.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying everything that they see will come to pass. I'm just
Me too. Interested. Hmm.
interested, and then I remember it, and then I can go check, 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 or not. Yeah,
Right
and
or not. Right or not.
and yeah, among other things, s- some of them see a literal attack on the Vatican.
I've heard of that before prophesized a few times too. You're right. I literally have heard that. One of them I heard was part of the Fatima prophecies.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that you know they and then Martin Malachi. I think that was his name, but the priest Malachi, he wrote about this being this could be the last pope because this is the last one on the list. And you know, he wrote all the popes, and it was very accurate. I mean, it was spot on. And this was a long time ago before any of these popes were alive. And he's named the last what 100 or something. I don't know. It's amazing what he's done with that. So yeah, he says this is the last pope. So there's a there's a lot of prophetic energy around that topic. So there might be something to that.
Mm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So from what they saw, they see Santorini go off.
Oh.
They see also other earth changes. Some of them saw Great Britain sinking.
Wow.
Mhm. As I said, please take it all with
Right.
grain of salt. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it will come to pass. But the thing that puzzled me was that some of them started comparing notes and
Mhm.
then came up with similar visions that they had about certain things.
It's so interesting because, we're right now, some people are starting to understand about the remote viewing,
Hmm.
you know, and that's what they do. They put several people on the target and then they see if their information comes back similar. It's kind of funny. It's because these are all kind of doing a remote viewing thing and they're coming up with similar stuff on the target. To me, that's something to pay attention to. So, not to say all of it's going to happen or, most of it, but I'm sure that we'll see some kind of resonance because the energy's there and it's readable and it's kind of strong and it's shown up for hundreds of years. So that's very interesting to me.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, Earth changes are, I would say they are in the cards the next couple of
Edgar
years.
Casey, he saw that, the Hopi prophecies, they've seen that. You've got the Navy maps that are showing that. There's a lot of different places that are seeing the Earth changes as well. And um, I was in my intuition was told that the earth changes were going to be hard, but they were also going to be amazing because like you were talking about new land rising.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like Mother Earth would give up some of her most treasured secrets, and it would be because of these new lands rising and these earth changes opening up things that we didn't see before. So it's going to be a very beautiful process of discovering things that we never knew were here. So that was kind of exciting too. That's a
Maybe we will
potential.
even see a piece of land where we can no longer deny that it, used to be at least an outpost of Atlantis. Because to me, I don't think it was just one island. I think it was all over the place.
You're right. I think that too, because that I did a past life regression
Hmm.
and I went to Atlantis. And and that was what we knew. Atlantis was like the United States, but it was a
Yeah.
huge territory. But we also had Atlantean like embassies, kind of how we have the embassies.
Hmm.
So everywhere, almost on the whole planet, appeared to have an Atlantean like spot, for people to meet because they were sharing all the different sciences and stuff with each other. It was really cool. I saw that in my regression. So I think you're absolutely right with that. At least it's what I was shown. You can't prove it, but I think you're right.
Hmm. I
Hmm.
also think that with Atlantis, there were a couple of things. And it regressed in the end and became really, really an evil force, with
Yeah.
Atlantean warlords and what have you, corrupted sciences, and yeah. So it wasn't all, hunky dory and wonderful and beautiful. And and that, of course, is always a possibility, depending on who is in charge of certain technologies and what is allowed in terms of technologies. Just because you can does not always mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
That's
instance,
true.
I would certainly advocate to stop all gain of function research.
I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Without question.
I don't really see the scientific and medical benefit in all of it.
I see the dangers in it more than I could see the benefits. And I understand that they want to open up doors into cell structures that they didn't have access before. But I can tell you, nature knows what it's doing and they put walls up for reasons. So, I don't think that's a good idea. at all. And we're seeing things now that we're getting sick from, and the crossing between the animal and humans and the birds and the mammals and all of this stuff. That's not been expressed before. So it shows you that this tinkering causes problems that we may not yet even know how serious this will be. But they've already done it. So hopefully they don't continue to do more. But I really do hope it stops, because we don't even know yet what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I sometimes ask myself, do you, oh, of course, you are familiar with it in Persia. We have these, chiseled in stone. And yeah, they have a body maybe like a bull or something, but then the head of a human. Sometimes I ask myself if these were not chimeras that actually walked around, and that, it went haywire. The
Well, again, Judith, all I can tell you is what my imagination showed me when I did the past life regression and I ended up in Atlantis. I thought I was in Greece at first. I didn't even
yeah,
know. I
yeah,
didn't even know. Yeah, I really didn't know until I started seeing the beings. And then I was like, where am I? And they were like, this is Atlantis. I was like, oh my, I thought it was Greece. But so yeah, no, that was what we were doing. Chimera programs were huge there. Huge, huge, huge.
yeah. And that is frightening, honestly.
That was my last memory of when I was dying in that lifetime, was that how we gave our power away because we didn't understand what we were giving away, and that we got tricked. But that trick was really serious, and it was because we were doing things, working with off-world beings that came to our planet, and they were here on the planet working with us in the labs, and they were showing us all this stuff, how to change DNA, how to make chimeras. And that was what the visions were in the, in the past life regression memories. So it was very interesting. But no, I from what I saw, you're spot on with that train of thought. So maybe you've had some time there as well.
Yeah, yeah, I would say yes.
I'm
And
like, you're asking all the right questions, Judith. Maybe you've had a little time there.
yeah, but I find it always sounds so bizarre when I lived there and there. I usually do not talk about it because, but
Far out,
yeah,
but you know how
I have a hard time imagining that they only chiseled that in stone because they had a very wild imagination, just for
I
kicks.
agree. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
they were more along the lines of I chisel what I see.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah. The art of that day was to express an idea or something that was in their culture, a belief system. Yeah. Beautiful architecture, stuff like that. Romance, you know, mythology. Those were all the things portrayed in art. So yeah, I do. I think it was something that they saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
and I don't even want to imagine what that must feel like to be in such a body.
Interesting enough. I was able to work with the consciousness and the transfers, and I could feel some of what they were feeling. And then I had the ability to connect telepathically to the transfers once they were done. And one of the most beautiful ones I remember was um, humans were going into to dolphins. We were putting consciousness of humans into the whales. And they were being as an Akashic library for our consciousness because we knew things were getting ready to go down. We didn't know how many would survive. Somehow we knew the sinking of Atlantis was going to happen. It wasn't a surprise, like we knew this. So we were getting ready, and I was still transferring consciousness as I was literally sinking under the water in my lab. Literally. So this was what we were doing. We were trying to save consciousness at the end. When we realized what happened, we were trying to preserve it. And the chimera programs was one of the main ways that we were trying to accomplish that goal. So yeah, it's profound, but yes, the consciousness. That's why so many people are so connected to the whales and the dolphins. And have you noticed how feisty a dolphin can be? That's superhuman. That's human behavior. So, I mean, yeah, it looks like there could be some substantiated stuff behind that. I see, yeah, part could be. I don't know.
Mm. What is very, very popular these days, and I see it more and more, is the remembrance of the ancestors.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing. I'm not saying shit on them because that's nonsense. We all build on what they have created before.
Yes.
And yes, they deserve respect for that, definitely. But there comes a point when it is too much for me. Like people,
Mhm.
they are sitting in a garden, they are talking about a particular topic, and then the wind goes through the bushes, and that they interpret as the ancestors just said yes. Yeah, yeah. And or even one step further, then people start building shrines to their ancestors in their houses. And that is where I think it gets weird because
Yeah.
um, they are dead.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
see, like I've since I was little, I've always had the ability to see things. So, my babysitter died when I was 10, and 3 months after he died, he was standing in my hallway.
Hmm.
So that kind of ruined that for me from a very young age. When you die, you don't die. There's your spirit carries on. I mean, I that shocked me so bad. It scared me so bad. I wouldn't go in the house. I mean, I was freaked out. But that was when I couldn't anymore deny that there's something more after we die. And he was the first person I loved I ever saw that died. So it was the first time I experienced a death.
Mm-hmm.
And then he showed up in my hallway 3 months later, and I was having such a meltdown. My mom was like, knock it off, knock it off. And she finally calmed me down by saying, I know I've seen him too. And that was what made me finally be able to shut my mouth because I couldn't process what was happening. It freaked me out. So, yeah, there's the ancestors, like I said, all forms of worship
Yeah.
are giving away your power.
Mm-hmm.
Your ancestors are here to tell you, look what I learned, and now you carry my wisdom in your code, as well as some of my trauma. But nonetheless, there's great wisdom there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we honor from our ancestors, is knowing that you are what you are because of their process of growth and change through the genetic processes we've been through, which are extensive. So, but you also carry their wisdom because it goes into the Akashic records, which goes into the collective. And that's part of your soul's essence to create your body from the earth of the earth. You connect to the records of the earth. Those are your ancestors. So much of what you are is because of what they've already experienced.
Yeah.
And a large part of those experiences are parts of you, just in different time, but all present now.
That experience that you just described, I don't doubt it. Yeah, that
Mhm.
you had this experience and that this, yeah, let's say spirit manifested somehow because otherwise you couldn't have seen it. And
Mm.
but honestly, Trina, if I'm out of here, I've got better things to do than hanging around
Oh,
here.
yeah. Absolutely. He never showed up again, too, after that. He was out of here. See what
Mm.
I mean? So yeah, but there were spirits that did hang around on my property, but finally they left too. And I think that's when we could figured out how to let them know, dude, you're not supposed to be here, like for real. But you got to get past fear a lot before you can get to where you can actually say, dude, you're not supposed to be here.
Mm.
It takes a while to get to that place. So yeah, they're not supposed to be here. Yeah, you're right. You're
Do you,
right.
do you think that some spirits need the kick in the butt? But that
You
they
know,
somehow are stuck here for some stupid reason?
yeah. Yeah. And but you don't want to interfere with whatever they're doing, but if like you like to say something, they're like, what? And they want to do something or they don't like where they're at. Yeah, you can offer them support and a lot of them will move and they don't come back. They're gone. Yeah, they don't come back.
Mm.
Yeah. But it's about them. It's not about you. There's not much you can do for that. If it doesn't want to move, it's not gonna, let me tell you. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we have cultures here that believe, when after somebody died, you chop off the head and then you bury the body separately from the head, that the spirit cannot move on into the afterlife, that they kind of stuck here in this realm. I don't know if that is true. Um, but what I definitely believe is that there are spirits who are stuck here, and that for them it's very, very hard to get away here.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's based on their belief.
Yeah.
So, they're in their own prison cell based on their consciousness and what they believe. So, like I said, but interesting enough, when I did regressions, I went to in between lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I did a lot of counseling for people who were coming into the higher realms. And I also was doing what was like a soul retrieval. So people that were in lower realms of their consciousness and walking around aimlessly in these loops and circles of their own mind, when they were ready to pop out, I was one of the ones that would be sent to go and pull them out. And there's a whole bunch of spirit souls that do that. I mean, it was not just like I was some special thing. And no, it was just like a normal occupation. You know what I mean? It was like a lot of beings did this. So that was interesting to see that because I couldn't even really explain what that was for a long time. It took me a while to even put that into words
Mm-hmm.
because it was at first when I first saw it, it was basically a lot of just light and darker light moving and feeling the consciousness though when the lights would use the consciousness was there but it was just a lot of light and for whatever reason I knew the light I was going after, you know what I mean? It was just like you were drawn to it like a magnet. It was weird, like you knew where you were going. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. And
Hmm.
that was when you left here.
Yeah, I was already in the realms out of physical body. That's I mean, I got to see a glimpse of in between lives because that was one of the questions I wanted to know. What do I do when I'm not in a physical body? And that was what I was shown. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you have did you ever ask the question why you came back here now?
Yes. Many times because I was like, this place is stupid when I was 3 years old. Yeah, for real. I was like, this place is stupid. Yeah, I was really, really frustrated when I was a child because I had memories of being in the higher realms and they were way better. And I was like, what am I? This place is stupid. Why don't you just get rid of it right now? I know you can. I was really adamant too. I was not kidding. So, yeah, but they were like, no, you promised you. And it took me a while to remember why I actually came here. But the reason I am here is because I would they call me a systems breaker because I would never follow if it didn't feel right in my gut, I wouldn't do it no matter what. It was just always I had a strong disposition for that. So there was a lot of hope for the planetary energies for people that could do that and hold that. I'll walk my own path, thank you. And I don't care because I got to do it my way because I can't do it your way because it does not feel good to me and I won't do it. There's not, I mean, school, I was a problem in school because that's not right. I would just, it was hard, but that's my nature. So that they were like, you're here to hold that energy of that's not right, question everything. And they always said, you're the why girl. If it doesn't make sense to you, you're going to force them into a corner with show me, prove it, or I'm not buying it. You know what I mean? Just part of what I was made to be, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I came here to be a divergent, Judith.
That is actually a great movie, Divergent.
Yeah, it's like the best identity I could say of what they were showing me. They're like, the system breakers have to be here. Another big wave of system breakers that came onto our Earth planet that we can have a conscious awareness of is the hippies.
Mm-hmm.
That was another big wave of consciousness coming into the planet for a specific purpose. And look at that. That was all about love. See? Yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned ugly.
Well, yeah, they were protesting love because we were in brutal wars, but none of that has stopped. But see, there's these waves of change and we're getting ready to go through another one. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, what I mean is it towards the end of that movement, and there is a lot that can be said how the CIA even was undermining and even launching the movement. And if you go into CIA and Woodstock, I mean, my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody on LSD, and it was raining like shit, and the people were willing to stand in the mud for 3 days up to their knees. Unbelievable. Yeah. So there is really, I get it, and I'm all for it with this love and peace, but there is a very, very dark side to that as well.
You are absolutely right. It's so funny. You were talking about the psyops,
Yeah.
the peace symbol that they created during that time. That's algiz, which is reversed, which comes from the ancient ruins, which is a very, very, very old ancient symbol. So when you flip algiz upside down to make the peace symbol, it's literally a symbol of restraint, suppression, control.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you turn the peace symbol upside down, it's the human with their arms open wide, extended, receiving inspiration. That's your why, your your fire. So yeah, your inspiration that comes from your oversoul, your source, your soul above you that's giving you the information to your consciousness. Because you're not thinking inside your brain, you're receiving information from the field, and the field is processing the information through the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these days, where it also got into a very stupid way is the New Age.
Yes. Yes. It's the intent. See, this is how they do it, just like with the peace symbol. They take something very powerful and true and they just flip it. So the inversion still carries the truth within it, so it can deceive many. So this is kind of what I saw that happen with the new age. It's got a very beautiful, honest intention and foundation, and people really want to do good things, but things get flipped around backwards because you don't realize the power and the influence and the effects of connecting to things outside of yourself. So that can be very harmful, and they're very aware of this. And that's why they want many to fall from that, because it's terrible. I've seen horrible things happen to people that, work with these higher energies. And it's not their fault. It's just sometimes these things happen. So, it's something you really got to be careful with. And the whole bottom line is it doesn't matter what kind of worship you're doing. If you're worshiping, you're kind of still missing the point. It's about understanding your inner verse. You need to understand who you are. I do believe that is the question that gets us brought into these separate pockets of consciousness. Is we
Yeah.
ask the question in the higher realms, who am I? Boom, you're launched into a construct with that one thought. That's what I think. So, I can't prove that, but that's how I think I got into the thing was I said, who am I? See, when you who am I, that's when you're asking for separation to explore self. You're no longer in the collective at that moment. And that's a transfer of consciousness right there. It's from one pole to the other. Boom, boom, zap in and out. So, yeah, I think that's the question that got 99% of us here in the first place was, who am I?
Hmm.
Mhm,
Yeah. Yeah,
mhm.
I think that is one of the reasons why I'm not big on groups. Yeah, because, it is so. I don't think that New Agers are evil people. I really don't believe that. But it frightens me how easily they are deceived. And then they are having this, and Archangel Michael said this, and the Council of Nine is going to do that, and yada, yada, yada. And none of it ever comes to fruition.
It's when you look at the intelligent body that you're sitting in,
Mm.
most people forget to realize we literally have a worship gene that was installed in our code. So I think that's the big battle, Judith, with all of this is forgetting, they're trying to remember who they are, but they're connecting to things outside of themselves and following their guide, their leadership, their instructions, No, you want to get these from your own soul. You want to know from yourself because you're trying to develop your own essence. And no one can do that for you. You
Mm.
have to do that through your own inner work. There is no alchemy that
Yeah.
can take place unless you alchemize it through your inner being. So it's about remembering who you are. You came here because you said, who am I? Well, you find out who you are is when you go backwards. You stop looking out and you dive back in. That's the whole question you wanted to know in the beginning was, who am I? When you realize when you go outside in and you flip back in the inverse, you realize that I am not I. I am a I am an energy of consciousness that is all potential and it is connected to a sea of infinite potential. And there is no more I in the concept of the truth of the energy that is all connected and it's a we, the thing. So the separation is dissolved again. But being all that is, swimming in that sea of consciousness, but never being able to mold or make any of it, you'd probably get bored.
Mm.
So you'd probably ask that question over and over again just to go and explore what can I manifest in these physical material realms. But man, I think this one got hijacked by some twisted sister scientists and did some really screwed up stuff to her genetics, and it's been a mess. So
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows?
And even with those so-called spirit guides and what have you, and angel contacts, honestly, at the end of the day, you don't know. You have
Yes.
no way of corroborating whom you are really talking to there. And if you want to trick somebody, of course you will appear like a good spirit and it's all love and light and what have you. Nobody that is a good deceiver comes in, with really bad negative energy that you are. No, So,
But Judas, I mean, even it says in the scriptures, it's like Satan himself would masquerade as an angel of light. So no, these dark beings do come in looking and emanating this radical love. Oh yeah, man, their favorite imposters are to imitate Jesus and to imitate Archangel Michael, the archangels, the seven archangels. That is their favorite tool.
yeah. And we will do that maybe another time, but there is a good possibility that Archangel Michael actually is an entire collective.
It is. You're absolutely right. That is what I came to the conclusion too. I looked into that and that was where I landed. That energy is massive. Yes, and it is a collective. Yes, and it is run by the blue ray out of the color wheel. Yes, it's powerful, profound, but yes, I see the same thing, a collective. It's massive. Hmm.
Okay. So, Trina, I'm not going to hold you any longer, but I had a lot of fun talking to you once again.
I always have fun talking to you. You are a gift. I'm so glad I can call you friend. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah, okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, yeah, guys, that was it. Night flight for today, and we see you on the next one.